Let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to tackle a very real medical mystery. We're looking at exactly why you can feel completely, utterly exhausted on days when your body has barely even moved from your chair, but your brain has just been absolutely bombarded by emails, notifications, and endless open tabs. If you've ever reached the end of a seemingly easy day only to feel like you just ran a mental decathlon, well, you are in exactly the right place. It's a question that brings this immense, heavy guilt to so many of us, right? You look at your to-do list, you realize you literally didn't even leave the house, and your inner critic starts whispering that you're just being lazy. But as we dig into the science today, you are going to see that you are absolutely not lazy. Your system is simply overloaded. Section 1. The paradox of doing nothing. Let's unpack this central paradox of modern life, where a surprisingly light calendar still leaves you with a completely empty mental battery. It doesn't seem to make logical sense until we begin to differentiate the actual types of fatigue our bodies experience. Think about the physical exhaustion from running a marathon. That is fundamentally different from the invisible, biological drain of running a mental one. See, when you work out, you break down muscle fibers and build up lactic acid. But mental fatigue? That is a totally different biological process involving your nervous system load and neurotransmitter accumulation. And because of that, it requires a completely different type of recovery. And just to validate exactly what you're feeling right now, consider this number, 1.5 million. That's the number of Australians who see their doctor every single year complaining of relentless, unexplained fatigue. And that is just one country. The data shows that 1 in 5 people feel unusually tired and 1 in 10 suffer from prolonged fatigue. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that you are far, far from alone in this experience. Section 2. Toxic buildup in the brain. Now, let's look at the prime suspect in our detective story. It turns out there is a literal, physical, toxic buildup happening inside your head when you focus. As you work hard, your lateral prefrontal cortex acts just like a high-performance engine. But just like a car engine produces exhaust, intense cognitive work produces a byproduct called glutamate. It's a major neurotransmitter, sure, but when it accumulates in high amounts outside of your brain cells over several hours of heavy cognitive load, really taxing your working memory, it actually becomes potentially toxic. This buildup literally clogs the engine, making any further cognitive effort feel incredibly difficult. What's genuinely fascinating about this is how our brain interprets that buildup. Researchers have found that mental fatigue isn't just this passive state of running out of gas, it's actually a biological check engine light. It is an active signal pushing your brain to disengage when the perceived value of a task drops. Your brain is constantly weighing effort versus reward, and when those glutamate levels spike, it actively shifts your behavior toward low-cost, easy actions, which is exactly why you suddenly just want to mindlessly scroll instead of finishing up that spreadsheet. Section 3. The decision fatigue drain. But here's the thing. It's not just intense, deep focus work that clogs the engine. It is also the sheer volume of mundane choices we are forced to make every single day. 35,000. That is the average amount of decisions you make in a single day. Think about that. From what to wear, to how to phrase an email, to the agonizing choice of what to stream on TV tonight, every single choice chips away at your mental energy, creating massive decision fatigue. This slowly drains our cognitive fuel tank until we experience what psychologists actually call ego depletion. We start to procrastinate, we get impulsive, or we just avoid making decisions altogether. The real-world consequences of this decision fatigue are pretty profound. A famous study on parole judges demonstrated this perfectly. At 8 a.m., with a fresh mind, judges were highly likely to carefully review cases and grant favorable rulings. But by 11:50 a.m., right before lunch, those favorable rulings dropped to near zero. Their tired brains were just defaulting to the safest, easiest option, which was denying parole. But then, look what happens at 1 p.m. After their mental batteries were recharged with some food and a break, favorable decisions spiked right back up to morning levels. Section 4. Hidden stress and hypervigilance. Beyond decisions and deep focus, we really have to look at the hidden background apps that are draining your brain's processing power without you even realizing it. Think of your brain exactly like a smartphone. If you have 20 intensive apps open in the background, your battery is going to die fast, even if the screen is turned off. Every time you jump between a spreadsheet, a team chat, and a text message, you create attentional residue. Your body carries the heavy burden of this allostatic load. That's the cumulative, invisible burden of chronic stress and emotional strain that keeps your nervous system trapped in a constant state of hypervigilant survival. And these hidden costs add up rapidly. Emotional masking, pretending you're okay when you're really not. Hypervigilance, constantly scanning for problems. People-pleasing, anticipating disasters. Perfection pressure. All of these invisible behaviors are aggressively draining your internal stress meter behind the scenes. You might not have done a lick of physical work today, but if you were doing this kind of invisible labor, well, your nervous system was essentially sprinting a marathon. Section 5. The Evening Screen Time Trap. So, you survive the day. You're exhausted. You finally collapse on the couch to scroll on your phone and decompress. But this brings us to a major twist in our mystery. While you think you are passively relaxing, the device in your hand is actively sabotaging your recovery. The blue light from your screen hits the photoreceptive cells in your eyes, sending a strict, "Hey, it's daytime," signal directly to your brain. This actively suppresses your natural sleep hormone, melatonin. Remember that toxic glutamate buildup we talked about earlier? Well, research shows that sleep is the primary way the brain clears out that glutamate. So, by tricking your brain with screen light, you are halting the very biological recovery process you desperately need. And those consequences, they absolutely carry over into tomorrow. If you don't properly clear those mental byproducts at night, you face severe cognitive penalties the next day. Delayed sleep leads to impaired attention, degraded memory consolidation, and slower reaction times. You literally wake up with your system still stuck in recovery mode, meaning your focus and mental clarity are going to be completely compromised before your day even begins. Section 6. How to truly recharge. Now that we've uncovered the culprits, the glutamate buildup, decision fatigue, allostatic load, and blue light, let's look at the evidence-based strategies to actually regulate your nervous system and clear that cognitive load. Now, I know a lot of people try to use blue light blocking glasses, but honestly, the science on those is highly inconsistent. The most effective, evidence-backed strategy is following this clear 2-hour rule. Step 1, stop using screens 2 hours before bed. Step 2, dim your overhead lights and use warm-toned bulbs to mimic a sunset. Step 3, switch to a non-screen activity. This physically signals to your nervous system that it is finally safe to power down. And let's move to daytime tactics to see how this builds your resilience during working hours. First off, hydrate. Studies show that even a mild 1 to 2% loss in body water reduces blood volume, meaning your heart literally has to work double time just to pump oxygen to your tired brain. Take 10-minute micro breaks without your phone to let your brain slip into its default mode network, allowing your baseline to naturally reset and reducing information overload. Consider natural brain boosters too, like L-theanine found in green tea to promote calm focus, and practice brief grounding exercises to step out of that hypervigilant survival mode we talked about. So, what you should really take away from this explainer is precisely this. You are not lazy. You are overloaded. Your exhaustion is incredibly valid. You aren't imagining it, and it is definitely not a character flaw. Your body doesn't need more self-criticism right now, and it certainly doesn't need more rigid discipline. What it actually requires is genuine biological nervous system regulation. Which leaves us with this final thought. As you reflect on the invisible load you carry into tomorrow, ask yourself, are you truly recharging your mind? Are you just slapping a piece of tape over your brain's check engine light? How can you step away from the screens tonight and start giving your brain the true biological recovery it so desperately needs? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go get some real rest.